Marvel Rivals has been out for 2 weeks now, and over that time, the meta has evolved crazily. So many different strategies have come out. The player base has changed the way they play. Some heroes have ended up becoming more powerful than we first thought. And the ban system in Diamond Ranked and above makes a big difference on which characters come out on top. So here is a good look at the real tier list currently moving forward, and a much more accurate look at where all the characters are. Let's just go from left to right. Adam Warlock. I think Adam Warlock is a solid A. I think most support characters are going to be ranked fairly highly, but Adam Warlock is A because his name is Adam. Secondly, he can resurrect his team, which I think is a really useful tool when the time is right. His healing potential is not quite as good as other characters. It's not as persistent, but it is burstier. One little tap of his healing ability will give you a nice burst of health, which can be useful at times, but once that's on cooldown, he's very limited in his heals, so he's not S tier. And his main primary attack is Hit Scan. It does 20 damage less than Hela's, but 15 rounds per reload instead of 8. So it's actually a really powerful damage. Adam Warlock is an off support. He does damage, he does support fairly well. Black Panther. Black Panther is really, really strong. Do I put Black Panther in S tier or A tier? I'm going to put all the heroes in and just do my first sort of impressions to begin with, and then we will come back later. I'm going to start with putting him in S tier, actually. I think Black Panther is a really strong character that's got a fairly easy ability set to get your hands on, honestly. It's pretty much a much easier Magik with much better results. He is the best dive character that can go sneak into the backlines and assassinate supports or DPSs, and he does it really well. And you'll absolutely carry games if you're good with Black Panther. He's a pretty easy option for those that struggle to rank up and feel like they want to make an impact. Like maybe they're dealing tons of damage every single game, but nothing is coming out of it. Switching to Black Panther could really change things because it gives you the ability to really hunt down the back lines and do it effectively, and his ability set makes it really easy to do. And there are some counters to Black Panther. You know, I think that if there's a Black Panther, you gotta really... You need to play tank. You need to play a good tank to sort of peel for your supports and protect your backline. You need to play maybe Thor or Hulk or someone like that, or maybe even like Scarlet Witch. But if you play Scarlet Witch, then your DPS potential is kind of lacking. So you as a team need to come together to deal with Black Panther. If you're soloing and you're all solo queuing, it becomes a disorganized mess with Black Panther ruining the backlines, and then your teammates start shouting at each other and be like, why are you letting Black Panther ruin the game? But really, yeah, you need a coordinated team to deal with him and make some actual like team comp changes to shut him down. So that's why he's really good. I do wonder how he would do if like it was a 6v6, everyone on a coordinated team, maybe a little bit different. But for ranked, S tier. Black Widow, D tier. I've tried Black Widow. Like coming from like shooter games in first person games, the idea of Black Widow is really cool. But the fact that you have to ADS to get the highest amount of damage, which then means you have to kind of expose yourself into the open to be able to actually see what you're aiming at, and then hit a headshot and not one shot, just doesn't make sense when you have Hawkeye. I think, you know what? I'm actually going to put her in C. I don't think she's that good, but I do think with the ban system banning Hawkeye and Hela, and there being more Iron Mans around, she could be good. But I think a good Iron Man isn't really flying out openly in the sky anyway. Next, we have Hulk. Hulk was a tank that got a lot of hate to begin with. A lot of people said Hulk was bad, but I think Hulk is just hard to do well with, but he's actually really good. He has a lot of presence, and when you learn to sort of maximize the jump potential, he is the perfect character to support your backline. Like, he's a great counter to Black Panther or characters that go and dive your backline. Maybe you've got like a Captain America just constantly hunting down your supports, or a Psylocke or something like that. Hulk's leap ability that has no cooldown, you can just keep going from the front line to the back line and being that big presence that you need to. And I think that he's really underrated, actually. And I think with some practice, his pretty good. Because he has a really simple moveset, but he's hard to master because he's a lot more of an active tank that has to think about his positioning a lot more than other tanks. A lot of the other tanks are fairly easy to play. Captain America, he's okay. I'm going to put Captain America in B tier for now. I've seen some Captain Americas be annoying enough to kind of shut down disorganized teams in ranked, and he can really put up with a lot of damage. He puts out his shield and he will deflect a lot of damage, but he doesn't really do much. Like, he can go and try and beat you up, but any other like decent brawler character can deal with him fairly easily. He doesn't have much. Like, I remember one time I was playing Doctor Strange and I had all of my team was dead. It was just me alone. I had like 50 health, and all I did was hold up my Doctor Strange shield and just wait for my team to respawn, and he couldn't do it. Couldn't do anything. He could not do anything, which is really strange. I don't know how that situation occurred, because usually when you melee Doctor Strange, it goes to the shield, but somehow I survived, and I don't really know how. He's just like, yeah, he's not amazing. I think he's one of the weaker tanks in the game. Next, we have Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger's pretty good. Cloak and Dagger can be really good at healing the team. Really good healing potential. But I also think that Cloak's abilities specifically can really shut down pushes. You know, it's an auto-aim attack that does more DPS than Scarlet Witch's abilities, at least against normal health targets. Scarlet Witch's attacks are scaled based on health, so much like Wolverine, she does more damage per second against higher health targets, so she's a good tank killer. But Cloak's attack does more damage per second against, you know, a DPS. So if you got a Black Panther coming at you because you're the support, you can switch to Cloak and deal with him yourself. And if you need to, you can use your escape ability to get away where you're invulnerable for a short second. I think Cloak and Dagger is probably one of the best solo queue characters because you can do it all. You can heal your team and you can output a decent amount of damage, and you can protect yourself because no one else is going to do it for you when you play a support, unless your other support is absolutely goated. So really, really good. I think when you have a decent, consistent comp, there's better supports, and we'll get into those in a minute. Next, Doctor Strange. S is for Doctor. No. S is for Strange. Doctor Strange is the best tank in the game. Still, in my opinion, Doctor Strange will do a lot of damage output, and he's got a fairly decent range on his attack as well. And his burst attack, which is his E, can do a nice amount of bursty damage to shut down pushes and just do that extra little bit of damage you need to kill a low health support or DPS. I'm often able to play Strange in a way that I keeping my team alive. I got my shield up. We're pushing along the objective, which Doctor Strange does so amazingly well. He's a really easy character to do it with. And then you can deal damage as well when you need to, and quite a lot of it. I'm often getting the most damage in the game and blocking the most damage in the game as Strange. And his portal is amazing at repositioning. It's amazing at saving last minute pushes to the objective. It can do some crazy things with slowing down pushes and setting up good team fights. His portal combined with his ultimate, which will stun. His ultimate is like a team wipe. It is a team wipe if well planned and executed. I think more so than perhaps any other ability in the game, because it stuns everyone in the radius. So he's just so good in every way. He has so much utility. Next, we do have Groot. I'm going to put Groot in A tier for now. Groot is harder to play well. One of the main reasons is a lot of Groot players will use their walls to, you know, set up and get healing from it and, you know, try and block sightlines and stuff. But so many Groots end up blocking sightlines for their teammates, blocking off their teammates, not allowing their healers to get vision or sightlines to heal all up their team. You need to be very careful with the way you play Groot because you could screw up your whole team and lose yourself the game. With that being said, Groot has a lot of damage. He can heal himself fairly effective if your team is nearby. If you didn't know, once his E wall is down, any damage from your allies done to enemies will be converted into healing for Groot. So he's a really tanky, sustained character that will stay around for a long time without the healer's help. So if you have like a one tank 3 DPS, 2 healer situation, or even like 2 tanks, 3 DPS and 1 healer for some weird reason. Like in ranked, it does sometimes happen, and Groot can survive himself, but just be careful of how you place your walls, because it can really mess things up. His ultimate's pretty good as well, but he just has less utility than Strange in a lot of ways. It's less easy to make work, much for the same, like, he has the same sort of objective-based goals that Strange can reach, but he's a little bit harder to do it with. Hawkeye is still S. Obviously, in Diamond and above, Hawkeye gets banned almost every game. So this will change some of the picks later on in this list, because I'm going to keep this in mind. Hawkeye is just so strong. I mean, the fact that you can just charge up your bow shot and build up enough of the purple, like, overcharge by tracking characters whilst behind a wall and then peeking and then just one-shotting them is ridiculous. The trouble is with Hawkeye, right, especially in lower skill lobbies, is it's so easy to just charge it up and just fire blankly, and before you know it, you're just racking up a bunch of kills and you don't really know why. You don't need to be good. You don't need to have good aim with Hawkeye. You just keep firing and firing and firing, and eventually you'll get lucky because it's a one-shot. Hela is also S tier. Hela, I think, is a higher skill Hawkeye. I think that Hela, most of the time, does better. I've seen Hela's consistently be the MVP, more so than Hawkeye. I'm not sure what it is exactly. I think the hit scan ability just means that you're able to keep clicking heads. So harder to use than Hawkeye, but you're more there, more in the fight, and that hit scan high damage shot that does like 140 damage in the head is really, really powerful. Hela's ultimate is also just so much better. A lot of players are getting really good at shutting it down now, though. It's fairly easy to go indoors, or you let your tank kind of block the shots whilst you try and take her out the sky. But it's still a very good ultimate, and she has a really nice repositioning ability as well. But just like Hawkeye, she's always banned in Diamond Ranked. Okay, Iron Fist is B. Iron Fist is okay. In the lower level ranks, he's a lot better. But if you deal with an annoying Iron Fist, you can just switch off to another character and you don't have any problem. Scarlet Witch can shut down Iron Fist really easy. Thor can shut down Iron Fist. Iron Man can shut down Iron Fist. Cloak and Dagger can. A lot of characters can shut him down really easily. And all you have to do is just counterplay him. If there's somehow an Iron Fist going around running mayhem, you just pick the counter. But most of the time, he just doesn't really have that much presence. Iron Man. Look, maybe in the future I'll put him in S tier, because it's going to be a little bit crazy to put him any higher, but he is really good. His overdrive ability makes his damage more for a short period of time. By default, it will do 180 damage per second with a 100 round mag, and it's basically hit scan. You need to be within a fairly close distance, but it's a very easy, consistent way to eliminate players. If you pair Iron Man and Hulk together, I think that combo becomes S tier, because then it's no longer 180 damage, it's 220 damage. It's really strong. Iron Man also has the ability to do area of effect damage with his other main attack, and once overcharged, it does a larger radius of splash damage, so it's really easy to pick off kills from players trying to run away. It's really easy to chip down the damage of groups of enemies. His ultimate charges up really quickly because you can just constantly spam abilities, which means you're not always going to get a kill with it. You're not going to get team wipes with it, but most of the time you'll get a kill. And it just is available so often. So it's a really, really useful thing to just keep spamming. Iron Man at the beginning of the game was played by people who would fly around in the sky, who were easy to pick off. Now, people have realized that all you do is just hold corners of Iron Man, or even just go on the ground and just fly around next to your teammates, and you're suddenly not having the same weaknesses that he had before. You're not getting picked out of the sky because you're not flying around out in the open. You're peeking cover carefully. You're playing alongside your team, right next to your healer, sometimes right on the ground. And then you can fly away really easily when you need to. So I think Iron Man is actually extremely underrated. And honestly, like I say, Hulk and Iron Man together, S tier. Jeff the Shark, I'm gonna put Jeff the Shark in B tier. And it's hard to say because I previously thought he was really good. I've learned my lesson. Here's the thing, right? Yes, he does have consistent heals that can go all the way across the map and heal through multiple players at once, which is really, really nice. But his ultimate is not good. This game, at the high level of play, is all about ultimate economy. Who has ultimates available, when they pop it, and how you use those ultimates together to take objectives. Jeff's ultimate is kind of fun. It's kind of cute. You can get squad wipes with it, and it can change the flow of games, but it's just not better than a Lunar Snow ult. It's not better than a Mantis ult. That invincibility for your whole team is so much better than the chance of maybe killing a couple players, and also getting yourself temporarily out of the action. As a healer, you don't want to be doing that. You taking the time to go and throw 2 players off the edge, let's be honest, that's mostly usually how it goes. Whilst your team is down a healer for that time, because you're going what would you call it? Surfing underground towards the edge of the map, throwing them off the edge, and then you got to go back to your team. A Lunar Snow ult is just better. His attack is pretty good, and I think paired with the Lunar Snow, he can be better. Maybe A tier, because then he can do a bit more damage and focus on damage dealing, and he's got good support from a really great support. But if you're playing Jeff and you're hoping to carry the game, it's not going to happen, unfortunately. So Loki for me is A tier, and the reason why is he can provide healing whilst not really being there. He just has to place down his decoys and then press the healing button, and as long as his allies are in the healing radius of that decoy, they will get healed up. I think that Loki also has some really cool sustain and survivability. It's really hard to kill a Loki because he can just switch with his decoys and basically go invisible and he's really hard to kill. So he is easier to stay alive. So if you're getting hunted by like a good dive character like Black Panther, it's still really hard to take care of him. It's still really hard to bring him down. Moon Knight is a good counter to Loki, but when you take Moon Knight, then once again one of your DPS is kind of lacking a bit. It's just taking Moon Knight to focus on Loki gonna limit your potential as a team. I think it's really good, and the fact that he can steal ultimates is really cool as his ultimate, makes him more flexible. Most of the time, there's going to be a Mantis or a Lunar Snow on your team, so you can steal their ultimate if you need it, or you can steal it from the enemy. Or if you feel like you need a bit more damage to, kill some players, you can steal a Hela ult or a Punisher ult or something like that. Pretty good. Lunar Snow is S tier. The way to play Lunar Snow is you just farm heals like crazy, freeze anyone that tries to push you on the back line, deal damage with your shift, which is like the clap thing. It does extra damage and extra healing and heals herself as well. Just farm like crazy until you have your ultimate, press the ult button, and then GG, go next. You just keep getting like farm heals like crazy so your ultimate is available as much as possible, and then just keep using it. Once you're in that ult, you're almost impossible to kill. Anyone in the radius of the healing ult is really hard to kill. An Iron Man ultimate can kill a Lunar Snow. A Hawkeye sniper shot in the head can kill a Lunar Snow, but it's rare. It's hard to make it work because you're going to be in a big cluster with all your team. It's just the best tool to push or stop objectives being taken. It's so good. Magik, in my opinion, is B tier. Magik, like, I've seen a lot of cool Magik players, and I know there's some good combos where you can do a lot of damage in a very short time with Magik, but she is a trickier version to play than Black Panther. Actually, I'm going to put her, like, above Iron Fist, just to make it clear. I do think she's a lot better than Iron Fist. She's got more survivability and armor for herself to kind of stay alive, but she's trickier to use, and the results you get out of using her are much the same as Black Panther. Like, it is the same, but you got to work a lot harder for it, and it's easier to go wrong with her teleports and dashing. It's just a little bit more difficult. I don't think she's as good. Magneto, solid A tier, really good tank. I think that it's easier to shut down a Magneto than a Doctor Strange. His shield isn't quite as good, but it is nice that his bubble shield can be used on himself or his teammate for a bit more flexibility when it comes to keeping important players in your team alive at certain situations. His ultimate can work at times. I think it's quite rare that you get much out of the ultimate, but there are times that you can get a couple kills of it. And also he has some pretty decent long range damage as well. So that's quite rare to see on a tank. But, you know, he's good. He's good. He's just not the best tank in the game. Mantis. Easy S tier. I think Mantis's ultimate is not as good as Luna Snow's. So if you're trying to play for the objective and win, I think most of the time Luna Snow is actually better, in my opinion. However, if you're trying to win games and make up for a lack of decent DPS players on your team, then I do think Mantis is better. Both are the best supports in the game. Mantis is better for dealing damage and staying alive. Luna Snow is better for like traditional healing, and her ultimate is just better for like staying alive and keeping your team alive so you can actually complete objectives. So up to you which one you want to choose. They're both amazing, but I think Luna Snow is going to win you more games. Unless you're absolutely insane with hitting shots of Mantis and you can just multitask healing and killing players, then yeah, maybe Mantis is for you. But if you're able to do that with Mantis, then you probably don't need to see a tier list. You already know what works for you, right? Moon Knight. Moon Knight is a situational character. I've seen Moon Knight do well. I have, and I enjoy Moon Knight as well. And I do feel like at the start of the game, he was a lot better, but now it doesn't feel as impactful. It's easy to destroy the Unks. Everyone knows how to do it at this point. People aren't going to be as clustered up in a big group if they know a Moon Knight's around. People can get out of the Moon Knight ultimate pretty quickly. They're used to escaping the Moon Knight ult. Seeing a lot less team wipes of it because people have learned how to deal with him. Moon Knight's really only good when you're dealing with like a really annoying Namor or a really annoying Loki that you just can't quite hunt. Namor, on the other hand, is I'm gonna put him in A. I'm gonna put him under Iron Man. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of A. Like, I think Namor's really good. His attack is really interesting. It doesn't have damage fall off, so I think it does 70 damage per shot, which is the same as Hela's. It's also infinite ammo. It's not hit scan, so it's harder to aim with, and it's slower fire rate. But it's infinite ammo, and it has no damage fall off, which means even at the furthest distance away, you're still doing 70 damage, which is not the case of most characters. It also does double headshot damage as well. So you can do 140 damage snipes from across the map. Hela will not do that much damage. She does have damage fall off. Most characters do. Namor is also an amazing counter to dive characters. If you're struggling to deal with Black Panthers, Psylocke, that kind of thing, just having your octopuses ready on cooldown and then immediately throwing your spear and putting your octopuses down when a Black Panther pushes you, for example, will just make it a lot easier to deal with. But I think that because the way his attack is quite slow firing, I think there are better choices for actually shutting down fights. His ultimate is pretty cool as well. It can get you some kills on lower health targets, but not as good as some other ults in the game. Peni Parker to me is A tier. I think on some maps, Peni Parker is amazing. There's Tokyo 2099 on the first defense round. She's really amazing on that map. She's S tier on that map. But once you kind of lost that first defense objective, she becomes less useful. And I've played a lot of Peni Parker, but I'll often switch off of Peni Parker the moment we lose that first defense, because I know a different tank like Doctor Strange or even Thor could be more beneficial for me, depending on the circumstances. Her basic attack, though, is really good. It's very long range, and it can deal a lot of damage. You can also web people to stop pushes, to stop Doctor Strange shields, and you can place down mines in a big cluster to get a bunch of surprise kills. Like, pretty decent, I must say, and I have been kill leader as Peni many a time, but I think that she's not, like, she's A tier, okay? That's still really good. I'm just explaining why she's not S tier, all right? So those are the reasons. She's not perfect, she's really strong, but she's just more of a defensive character. Right, Psylocke, S tier. Yeah, really, really good. The best assassin character in the game by a long shot. She also gets banned a lot in high level ranked because she is so good at sneaking off into the back line, literally being invisible, appearing, and just insta-killing supports. And she does it so effectively. Her ult is just such a powerful attack as well. It's so easy to use. It's just press to kill. It's a press to kill button. It's ridiculous. It is so good. Psylocke is basically as if Spider-Man was on easy mode. Like, the goal of Psylocke is the same as Spider-Man, but she does it better. She does it so much easier. Next, we move on to Punisher. Punisher, to me, he's an A tier. He's an A tier. Thing is with Punisher, I love playing Punisher. He's really good. His zipline has a lot of movement. He can get out of situations on his own. His shotgun's good for shutting down Black Panthers, Thors, Psylocke's, Iron Fists as well. But when it comes to actually making objectives happen, there's just one reason why he's not S tier. He has decent DPS, but it's not bursty. It is a lot of sort of slow fire rate. You're not going to get those bursty hits that, Psylocke, Hawkeye, Hela can get, or even Namor. I'll probably put him like behind Namor just a bit, because you're going to be sustained firing. You're not going to get as many kills with him. You're going to charge up your ultimate a lot, but in high level play, a lot of people will just hide until your ultimate's gone down. They'll just hide behind a corner. I used to get a ton of team wipes with him, but it's becoming a bit more difficult now. It still happens sometimes, but you need to pair a Punisher ult with like a Lunar Snow so you can push out in the open inside of Lunar Snow's ult. Otherwise, you're just going to get shut down. So a lot of crazy, like, you can farm damage like crazy with this guy, but you're not going to get as many kills. He's great, but perhaps not the best. Raccoon is B tier. Look, he can heal fairly effectively, but you don't have as much control over just instantly healing who you want to at that very moment in time. The Raccoon Punisher team up, by the way, changes everything. It's really busted, giving Punisher 167%, 67% increased fire rate and infinite ammo. That's crazy. That's actually good. But, on his own, not great. There are much better supports. His ultimate is basically useless, in my opinion. Support ults are so important in this game, and Raccoon's just sucks in comparison. Scarlet Witch, also pretty bad. I'm going to put her in B tier. She is one of those characters that you'll pick if you need to shut down like a Thor or something like that, because she can deal with dealing a lot of damage to tanks up close. But besides that, she does not do enough damage. Her ultimate is easy to shut down. You're not going to get as many kills with it anymore. She just doesn't do enough damage for her DPS. Spider-Man. Spider-Man is A tier, but only if you're really good with him. Spider-Man can shut down teams really well and do some crazy, super fast-paced things and make people's heads spin, but only if you're good with him. Otherwise, you're going to make your own head spin and struggle to figure out what is even going on. Spider-Man is really, really hard to get right. He's so hard to perfect. Just play Black Panther or Psylocke if you want to play that playstyle. Or if you really like Spider-Man, go and learn him, sure. And it will take some time, and then you'll get to reap the rewards. But it's just so much easier to play Psylocke and Black Panther. That's the trouble. Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl is a B tier. Her damage is not bad. It is not bad, honestly. Her ultimate's kind of funny. She can, like, root players with one of her abilities. So she's alright. But her damage output in comparison is not as great. And once she gets her ultimate, it's not going to do as much as a Psylocke ult. It's not going to do as much as a Black Panther ult, or a Hawkeye ult, or a Hela ult, or a Namor ult, or a Punisher, or an Iron Man. You can see the point I'm making. It just doesn't quite get you as much results. And you want a DPS ult to actually get kills, right? Star-Lord, on the other hand, probably A tier. I've seen some really good Star-Lord players. I think that one of the best things about Star-Lord is that when he does his little like dash jump thing, he's basically invulnerable for a short time. His ultimate is more efficient at getting kills than Punishers, in my opinion. I think it's more efficient at getting kills than Punishers. I think Star-Lord's harder to get kills with his primary attack. He doesn't have that nice bursty shotgun that the Punisher does, but he's still really good. It just requires a little bit more skill, but his ultimate is really, really awesome. Storm is, I don't know, I put Storm in C tier. Honestly, I have played against like maybe 4 or 5 Storms. I've never seen a Storm do. I'm going to put her in D tier actually, because I've never had a Storm on an enemy team actually win a game. I don't think I've ever seen it. I've hardly ever see her in the game. So honestly, maybe in a couple more weeks, all will be revealed and she'll be the best character in the game. But probably not. She's probably quite bad. Thor, I would put Thor in A tier. I would put him. Wait, Groot is way up here. Groot is like better. I think Groot is better than Magneto. Thor is pretty good, but he's really good at getting the supports and duelists and just being a nuisance. Once again, you can get a lot of kills with Thor by just spamming his abilities and building up Thor Force over and over again. It's a very easy play style once you've got the hang of that like ability combo, but he gets shut down really quick. He feels quite squishy compared to other tanks. He just doesn't quite stay alive. So you do need support from a support, or you need to be very careful about how you dive into a fight. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. Venom is A tier. I think Venom's pretty good. I think Venom is great at diving. Here's the thing with Venom, right? You can jump into a fight right at the backline of the enemy team, go and annoy the supports. You may not even kill them. You might, because his tendril attack is infinite ammo and it does critical damage. So extra headshot damage, pretty good. But even if you don't kill them, you're probably going to get out alive. So you've just annoyed the supports enough to give your team the time to move up. Because the supports are literally the thing that keeps the team together. So Venom is really good at it. Just like, if you play Venom, just constantly harass the enemy team support and you'll have a good time. Punisher, Winter Soldier, S tier. Winter Soldier has probably the best ultimate in the game. Yeah, I'm going to put him there. Actually, maybe behind Psylocke. It's so good at just team wiping. By the way, if you didn't know, once Winter Soldier activates his ultimate, everyone will have like a health threshold. So you only need to get them below the threshold to then be able to kill them with the ult. You don't need to get them all the way to actual 0 health. So it basically makes all the characters have less health, technically. He's really strong. All of his abilities are really just work so well together to just provide him with constant harassing and, yeah, a really strong character, honestly. I think that Winter Soldier is higher skill than Hela and Hawkeye, but once people get better at him, he's going to be even more prominent in the meta. And then we have Wolverine. I don't think Wolverine's as bad as people say. I think he's okay. He's a great tank buster. Sometimes you have really annoying tanks that just absolutely carry the game. And that's happening a lot more, especially in high level rank. So Wolverine shuts that down really effectively. It's pretty easy, man. It's pretty straightforward. I think it does take some practice to learn like when to push and when not to. And your team really needs to pick up the pieces, because you're going to be playing sort of a role where you sit there and wait for the opportunity to strike. It's not as easy to go like, you know, you're not playing like Psylocke and Black Panther where we can run away really easily. So he's not as effective, but, you know, it can work. And sometimes you'll want to pick him just when there's a really annoying tank. All right, so looking at this tier list now, I think we do need to make some adjustments because there's a lot in A. First things first, let's look at the tanks. I think Thor versus Magneto and Groot. I think Thor does need to be brought down a bit, and probably Venom as well. Then looking at the rest, I think we could bring down Spider-Man as well. Like, everyone says Spider-Man is good if you can play him well, but even if you can play him well, I'm sure you could probably just play another character better, honestly. So for now, I'm going to put him in B. I'm also going to bring Scarlet Witch down to C and put Black Widow into D. Because once again, just like Storm, I don't think I've seen many Black Widows ever win a game. Squirrel Girl to me is probably C as well. I feel like she's not quite as good as these characters here. Moon Knight, actually, I feel like is a bit harsh on Moon Knight, honestly. Like, he's okay. And Magik as well. I feel like Magik and Moon Knight are characters that I kind of have a little bit on the fence about for their ranking. I think maybe I'll bring Rocket Raccoon down as well, because Jeff, to me, I still feel like Jeff's better than Rocket Raccoon, unless you have Punisher or Winter Soldier on your team, then it's a bit different. And I think I'll also bring Peni down as well. Because Peni is very situational, very good on defense, but that's about it. So yeah, that's my tier list there. What do you think? Let me know, and I'll see you in the comments. Cheerio.